to Lifestyle Talk with Tara, brought to you by Deafing TV. I'm your lively host, Obioma Tara, and on today's episode, we will be talking about sexism and sexual bullying. This is a topic that was very hard for me to bring to you guys, and I'm going to try not to be controversial or pick a side and just state all the options, very, very fairly. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to do is describe sexual bullying. Although there is no official definition for it, I'm going to give you one. Okay, sexual bullying is basically a language, a theory, or a behavior that could be physical or non-physical. The main attribute of sexual bullying is that it uses sexuality or gender as a weapon against its victim. I'm going to explain that to you in the next few minutes. Okay, so I want to divide this into sexist society, sexual harassment, stuff like that. I'm going to describe to you what sexism and gender stereotyping is all about. Sexism is basically a prejudice. Yeah, it expresses discrimination based on gender roles that have been proportioned or appropriated by society. So it tells you cannot do this because you are a woman, or you cannot do this because you're a man. And when you eventually break those rules and you pursue those things, it labels you an outcast. That is the society we live in. It's a sexist society. Okay, so let me give you an instance. Say yes, there was a lady who bid for a contract. She's a civil engineer, and she bid for a contract, and she bid for it in her husband's name. And when she eventually won the contract, fair and square to be sure, she won the contract, and she happened to be the frontliner of the contract, right? So she was there on the construction site the day the project was to begin. And the people who awarded her the contract, or the company who awarded her the contract, needless to say, of course, it was a governmental company, and they started to look for loopholes in our ethics, in our work, in our, in the proposal that she had proposed, all to just justify taking her away from that contract or contracting the project to somebody else, because it was like, how can a woman be the forerunner? How can she be the frontliner in this project? It should be a man, and eventually they were able to do that with no reasonable cause, of course, but they were able to give that project to a man. So even if she was really qualified, she lost out on that contract simply because she was female. Now imagine if it was a cooking contract. You think, they might have argued. She probably would have gotten that job and with no issues. Now, it does not mean to say that men do not face this, gender stereotyping backlash as well. Sometimes a man wants to be a baker. He wants to bake cakes. And people are looking at him like, your mates are flying planes and you are baking cakes. It happens, and it helps, it kind of like limits us from being the best versions of ourselves. You're not able to achieve your goals to your fullest potential because of the backlash that we receive from society. So another thing that gender stereotyping does, it's in many forms, and one that I really, really want to bring to the fore is this rated and slated thing that we do now. Many people might not know that this is what we call it, but I'm going to describe it to you so you understand what I mean. Okay, so you know how guys in our society are encouraged to be like sexually active, right? And have multiple partners. Yes. And if he's able to pull it off, he's a bad guy. He's rated amongst his peers. He's the G, he's a player, he's a Casanova, he's the cool guy. But if a woman makes the same choices, or if a girl makes those same choices, she's shamed, she's bullied, she's ostracized, she's tagged a wench, or a, you know what I mean. So she's tagged a slut, yes. And so now we are beginning to see that this is no balance. So it gets as the be. So I can't choose to have. Now, I'm not saying that the act in itself is right? I'm just saying that what is good for the gander is good for the goose as well. Okay, let's move on from that. Let's not dwell too much on that. The very next thing I want to talk about is the forms of sexual bullying. Some of us don't know that some of the things that we do are sexual harassment. But I'm going to bring them to the fore. Just you hold on. Okay, the very first one is spreading rumors of a sexual nature. You could do it online. That is where people do it most of these days. They do it online or they do it physically from one person to another. I remember back in school, I used to have this thought, I used to have this view of certain ladies, right? Because they were said to be sneaking behind closed doors with some lecturers, all because they had a good relationship with their lecturer. Now, you were not there when she was sleeping with the lecturer. You did not see it though. You did not see any receipts or text, nothing. But just because she's friendly with the lecturer, she's tagged, oh, she's sleeping with she's friendly with the lecturer, and then she gets good grades. Everybody says she's sleeping with him. And it begins to spread that rumor, and that rumor begins to gain grounds, right? And the girl, she's tagged in a way that she cannot even show her face in public. She's shamed and all of that. So the next one will be inappropriate and unwanted touching. I know that guys are guilty of this. You guys, I hate this when I'm meeting a guy for the first time, right? Or I'm meeting someone new and he wants to compliment my hair or my looks and he touches my hair. I'm like, what? Don't do that. I don't know you. Don't do that. Or he touches your arm. I'm like, don't touch me. Now, it's very common and girls will complain about it a lot. We raise a lot of dust about it. But here is the thing. There's something that we do too that we do not tag sexual harassment, but it is. So, say I was at a restaurant one time and this group of girls came over to my friend who is very muscular, He has all those pectorals and biceps that are everywhere, just in your face. It's very attractive. So they come up to us and they start flirting with him. I'm not against that. But then the next thing is one of these girls touches his arm, right? And she just like hangs on to it. And he's like, don't do that. And she's shocked because she expects him to be flattered that she likes his arm. They all expect that he will be flattered, that they are showing him so much attention because of his body. I'm not saying there are some guys who don't like that though, but there are some guys who are more confident than others about their bodies. Just like some girls are not so confident about, or they are not so happy with having big chests, or don't think that it's always a compliment when you tell me, you are busty. Don't do it. So don't touch a guy, especially, see, I'm not saying these things are not attractive, but if I see Dwayne Johnson today, me, myself, and I, we would touch him. But I would ask for permission. I would ask, may I touch? So seriously, just ask. Sometimes it's a compliment, if it's nice, but sometimes it's just annoying and it's an invasion of the person's privacy and space. So please do not do it. Do not always feel like it is flattering to them. Don't sit on a guy's lap just because, come on. If you're not close like that, don't do it. It doesn't make any sense. They are not always flattered. So please always ask for permission if you can. The very next one is emotional blackmailing. People don't know that this is sexual bullying. Now, people do it a lot. I hear people say, if she loves me, she will send me nudes. If she loves me, we'll be sexting. Or they start comparing like past relationships or past events that have happened. And Shebi, you did it for this person. Shebi, you gave this person a lap dance. Why won't you give me a lap dance? Shebi, we are together now. And it's like, I'm trying to move on from that. Not me, they, or whoever. It's trying to move on from that. And you're just, can't see that. And you're just, taking them back there. They don't need that pressure. We never need that pressure. Do not feel it is okay in any way to emotionally blackmail a person to do stuff of sexual nature that they are not comfortable with. Okay, the next one would be to make inappropriate sexual innuendos. We all have that friend, that can make anything, anything sound sexual. Something as simple as, I feel like some cake. They'll be like, You feel like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do it because I don't do sexual innuendos, but like, there are people who would make just wanting a piece of cake sound very sexual, and they do it all the time. See, it is not comfortable for everybody. If you're in the midst of people that you're not very familiar with, please try to, turn it down a notch. It is not always attractive, especially when those sexual innuendos are persistent and, unwarranted. So just please let the conversation flow without making people feel so very uncomfortable around you. It is bullying. It is sexual harassment if you don't know. All right, the very next thing we would be coming to is the effects of sexualized bullying. I don't think I need to stress on this too much. Okay, but I will. I'll try to give an example. It could degenerate into domestic violence. It could degenerate into actual sexual harassment, rape, and sexual assault. A good percentage of teenage girls, a study shows, I'll tell you about that later. A study shows that a good percentage of teenage girls are exposed to sexual experiences before the age of 14. Like, can you imagine that? It leaves them feeling humiliated. It leaves them feeling worthless, worried, insecure, guilty, and they don't really have anybody to talk to it about because they don't know how far is too far. So you leave them in a confused state of what is acceptable about sex, and they don't know when to tell a person stop or not. This is sexual harassment. So you never really, when it gets to the point of, oh, this person raped me and it is discovered, that's when we now start hearing questions that are so annoying. I don't even want to bring it here, but basically, if we are able to stop sexual harassment or sexual bullying, really, before it gets that far, that would be great. So please, let's try to do that. Also, it affects emotional well-being. I don't think I need to emphasize this one too much. You make somebody do something that they did not want to do. You emotionally blackmail them. You pressurize them. Boys are not left out of this, by the way. The feeling of, oh, I have to measure up to the idea of masculinity that my society has set, or the idea of masculinity that my peers have established, leaves them feeling very worthless if they are not able to attain that. And then when they eventually do, in the future, they start regretting it. They are like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It leaves them feeling like something is wrong with them, or just feelings of regret and not being worthy and stuff like that. We don't want to do that to people. So the good thing about this, though, is that sexism, gender stereotyping, these things, they are basically learned behaviors. So we can unlearn them. I wish most of us would take the responsibility to be able to tell our friends and our siblings, and teach them how to break these things, these circles. We have come to the end of this show. We've come to the end of this episode of Lifestyle Talk with Tara. Thank you so very much. This show is brought to you by Defin TV. Follow me on Instagram, Lifestyle Talk with Tara, or at I am Tara. If there's anything that I left out, you can always put that down in the comments, and I'll see you in the very next episode. Bye-bye.